But we begin tonight with the sheer exhaustion of Donald Trump's first week in office. It's only been 5 days, but so far, Trump has signed dozens of executive orders since Inauguration Day on Monday. He's also issued pardons for over 1,500 people involved in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. He commuted the sentences of individuals who are associated with the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, those who were convicted of seditious conspiracy, among other charges. And Trump has declared a national emergency at the U.S. southern border and has targeted a constitutional right that automatically grants citizenship to anyone born in the United States, though that action has already provoked court challenges. Trump is also threatening federal workers with punishment for concealing any work related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, of course, the chaos, the cruelty, and the exhaustion, well, that's the point. And it continues on through tonight, as critics say that one of Trump's earliest decisions actually creates a major risk to our national safety and security. Pete Hegseth, the Army National Guard veteran and Fox News host, who Trump nominated to lead the Department of Defense, faces a Senate confirmation vote later tonight. That vote will occur amid Hegseth's own admission that he made a $50,000 payment to the woman who accused him of sexual assault in 2017. The revelation was one of the written answers that Hegseth provided to Senator Elizabeth Warren in response to additional questions that Warren posed to Hegseth as part of the vetting process. Senator Warren also had much to say about these troubling allegations involving Hegseth's drinking habits.
The kind of drunk that you take work folks to a strip club and so drunk then that you try to get up on stage and dance with the strippers. The kind of drunk that stopped the Uber because you're going to vomit drunk. Look, I understand there are people who have alcohol problems, but we cannot trust the safety of our country to someone who has demonstrated repeatedly using very bad judgment with alcohol and doing it in ways that truly have incapacitated him.
All right. Let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin for the latest on the confirmation vote. Julie, what is happening right now on the Hill?
Well, we're just about 2 hours away from the vote to confirm Pete Hegseth as Trump's Secretary of State gets started at 8:57 p.m. And you know that we have two Republicans, Senators Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, who echoed some of what Elizabeth Warren were saying in saying that they do not believe that Hegseth has the temperament, the qualifications, or the expertise for a job like this. Set aside those allegations that we've reported on first this week in that affidavit signed by Pete Hegseth's ex-sister-in-law, Danielle Hegseth. They were concerned about his nomination even before that, his drinking, his alcohol abuse, how he mismanaged funds at veterans organizations, how he potentially created toxic workplace environments where he worked. These are all things that senators have been hearing from. There have been intermediaries and whistleblowers that have been reaching out to try and share their experiences with Pete Hegseth. But just Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski voting with presumably all 47 Democrats against him will not do much to change the outcome of tonight's vote. If it remains the same as it was yesterday, 51-49, he will get through. The question is, are there any other Republicans that will join him? I've been talking to in my reporting, and there are a couple that are on the fence, both for national security reasons, concerns, just like Senator Warren laid out that he's not the right man to lead the Defense Department at this current juncture, by the way, the biggest federal agency, but also concerns that he may not have been truthful in his congressional testimony, that the transition, the Trump team now is trying to push him through and has not answered every single question they needed to senators. And I think this is very much, Melissa, still a live ball tonight.
Okay, so a very fluid situation. That's NBC's Julie Sirkin on Capitol Hill. Thanks so much for that update, Julie. Joining me now is Pentagon correspondent for the New York Times, Helene Cooper, and retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel Amy McGrath, the founder of the Democratic Majority Action PAC. I will start with you, Lieutenant Colonel McGrath. If an enlisted man was accused of excessive drinking, sexual abuse, and extramarital affairs while in the military, could they be promoted under those circumstances? What are the consequences of engaging in that conduct for an enlisted person?
Well, it would be highly unlikely. And I mean, this is what it comes down to, and we're not talking about this enough. You know, if Pete Hegseth goes through, he will not have the respect of the admirals and generals that he is going to lead, because they know the ethics of our military. They have risen to the highest ranks, and they know that this man really would not be promoted anywhere near their rank. And also, it's more than just the sexual misconduct allegations and the alcohol abuse allegations. It's the fact that he is simply unqualified. I mean, think about the fact that this guy has never held a leadership position of any magnitude in any organization greater than the size of your neighborhood McDonald's. I mean, that's literal. And that's what we're looking at here. And these senators have to know that. They care about our national security. They got to know this man's unqualified.
Well, can I push on that a little bit? It's not simply that this is a question of military ethics. It also may be a question of martial law. It's my understanding that the Military Code of Justice prohibits adultery for those who are enlisted because of concerns about what it does for morale within the enlisted corps. What would it mean for someone who stands at the head of the Department of Defense to have been credibly accused and indeed to have admitted to adultery during his time as a married man? What would that mean for morale within the ranks?
Well, it's a terrible precedent to set. And as you just said, not only is it a terrible precedent to set on that notion, but just the allegations of sexual assault. I mean, we have a sexual assault problem within the military, and you're going to give the big thumbs up to a guy that is credibly accused of sexual assault. And on top of that, here's a guy who in his testimony, and we know that he doesn't think very highly of the laws of war, that he doesn't think very highly of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. This is a big problem within our military, to have a leader that doesn't abide and doesn't believe by the ethical standards that shape our military. That is very important, not only for our military's morale, but for our standing around the world and our standing of the military institution within America.
Right. Helene, let me turn to you. Senate Republicans have downplayed a sworn affidavit from Pete Hegseth's former sister-in-law, who claims that his behavior caused his second wife to fear for her safety. As they note, Samantha Hegseth, his second wife, isn't speaking out on this, and for that reason, they're less inclined to take these allegations seriously. But it's worth noting that the couple's divorce agreement includes a non-disparagement clause, which prevents Samantha Hegseth from saying things that could potentially disparage her former spouse. Could that perhaps explain her relative silence on this issue?
Hi, thanks for having me. I can't speak to the why of why Samantha Hegseth might not be talking. You do note the non-disparagement clause that's in there. He is also the father of her children. And so there has been some reporting about what she has said privately to the FBI during that investigation. But, you know, as you said, there is a non-disparagement clause. This is such an interesting vote that we're going into tonight. You know, most defense secretary votes are not like this at all. They usually go. Lloyd Austin, who was President Biden's Secretary of Defense, had more than 90 votes. The same thing for President Trump's two secretaries of defense. Jim Mattis had like 98 or something votes, and Mark Esper had 90. We haven't had anything that was this disputed for this position since Chuck Hagel. He still won, but he was bruised somewhat in his hearing in 2013 by his own party, by Republicans. But by and large, when you're looking at this position, this is something that usually you go into it with a huge bipartisan majority. So even if Pete Hegseth is confirmed tonight, he's going to be entering the job somewhat diminished by the fact that he will have more than likely lost not have any of the Democratic votes to begin with, and he will have lost at least two that we know of right now. Republican votes from Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, and who we don't know yet if there will be one. If there's one more, then we need J.D. Vance to break the tie. And but he can't lose more than one more Republican vote. After that, it's game over for him.
Well, can I ask a little bit more about that, Helene? If he is going to emerge from this confirmed, but nonetheless bruised by the battle, what does that mean for his effectiveness at the head of the Department of Defense?
It's a really good question, Melissa, because there's a reason why that the military is supposed to be apolitical. First of all, it's because you need some degree of bipartisan support for the Pentagon budget. It's $850 billion a year. It's bigger than the GDPs of like most countries out there. The military, because of its vastness, but also because of all of the troops who are also supposed to be apolitical, is supposed to represent. It takes pride in the fact that it is apolitical, and so that's going to be an issue. There's no question that the military, if Pete Hegseth becomes defense secretary, the troops will salute him as commander in chief. Our military is trained at this point to follow the chain of command and to do follow the lawful orders of their civilian chain of command. And he would be at, very close to the top of that chain of command. And so they will follow his orders, provided they are all that they are legal. So that's not the issue. The issue is much more, it's a more intangible one of what the military is supposed to represent.